Vicki is our Area A1 director, so she has a tremendous responsibility that she handles very well. As it was stated earlier, her speech this evening is coming out of the Entertainment Speaker Manual, Project 5, 8 to 10 minutes. I asked her briefly before the meeting why she picked that particular topic for the particular part of the manual. And she said it was from personal experience. So I'm very looking forward to hearing her personal experience with this topic. And I hope you are too. And with that, Vicki is working, the fellow Toastmasters, imagine you are in a room with individuals who have recently become caregivers of a loved one. Please welcome Vicki Chadwin. Congratulations, you're a caregiver. How to survive the first year of caring for a loved one.
I'd like to thank the National Alliance of Caregivers for inviting me here this evening to speak to you and tell you my story and to share some tips. In 2001, the nation had an event that hit home. Well, I also had an event that hit home with me. January 25th of 2001, my husband at the time was a truck driver, and I got that call that nobody wants to hear. Your husband was in an accident, and he's in the hospital. So I drove to the hospital, and he was okay. They had done the x-rays and made sure that everything was okay. I drove him home, and we waited for the results. The next morning, he got a call and said, we'd like you to come in and have some more tests because the x-rays kind of look bad. So we went in for x-rays, and they called up again and said, that spot that we found on your spine is cancerous. Now at the time, he was 35 and I was 31, and I had 3 children, the ages of 3, 7, and 10. Now you hear about the sandwich generation of caregivers where you have your elderly parent as a caregiver and you have your children who you're caregiving. But one of the areas that we have is when you have to care for a spouse earlier in life, not as when they get older. And that's not something when you get married and you say your vows until, in sickness and in health, that we think about that it's going to happen in your 30s. But it did. So I'm here to share some of the things that I learned that first year. First of all, always carry a pad and a pen because things get out of your mind and you want to write them down because you have questions that you have to ask the doctors or other people or just thoughts that you want to remember, like to pick up the kids. Every once in a while you got to do that. And if they're on a play date and it's not in the schedule, you might forget about it. So write those things down. Pen and paper, very important. Also, a calendar is very important. I don't know how many doctor's appointments that you have to schedule and reschedule. And I used to always think that phrase of, let me check my calendar before you commit to something. But I realized you have to check your calendar when you're a caregiver because there's appointments that you need to make it to. So those are my 2 first pointers of surviving as a caregiver, is to have your pen and pad and also have your calendar. The next thing that I want to talk to you about is accepting and asking for help. This was something that was very difficult for me because in my family, it was the concept of we get through it together, but we don't share it with everybody else. Now, one time I was unloading kids and I had my arms full and I was carrying a whole bunch of stuff, and somebody asked me, would you like help carrying that? And I said, no, I'm okay, and struggled through the door. How easy would it have been to say, yes, thank you for offering to help, and allow that person to help you. But it's just one of those things I didn't think about. But if somebody offers help, accept it. The next one is learning to ask for help. That is something that's very difficult because we don't want to say that we are powerless, and that's a sense of defeat. But if we ask for help, as I've learned, people want to help you. They've offered, again, how can we help you? And if you ask them, they truly want to help. Because I know I was that type of person that if somebody was hurt and was in the hospital, I would bring a meal to the family. but I was afraid to ask for it. So therefore, don't be afraid. Go ahead and ask for that help. So again, you've got your pen and paper, so you're going to write down those things that you need. You've got your calendar, so if you know that you have doctor's appointments that day and somebody says, how can I help? You can say, you know, we've got doctor's appointments all day. A meal at home would be great, and they would be willing to do that for you. So the next tip I want to share with you is having young kids in this experience taught me a lot. We had a lot of appointments over on the other side of the mountains, and so we would go and stay at a hotel. And I learned how to make it fun for the kids. Again, they were young, so the pool was a great distraction. Every night we would go down and they would swim and exhaust themselves to where they would sleep a really good night. It was better sleeping than in their own beds. You know, sometimes I think that they would play tag at night and go, okay, it's your turn to pretend to wake up and get mom up. Because how many times is it that a kid wakes up in the middle of the night? And I think they play tag every once in a while. Okay, it's your turn. Another thing we did while we were over in Seattle when he was having treatments is we would go to the museums and the zoo and all sorts of different activities. So they realized that yes, Dad was having treatments, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been because they were involved with other things and activities. And fortunately, we were able to have a little bit of fun as a family in this time. So make it fun for the kids if you have young ones. Now you've all heard the saying that God doesn't give you more than you can handle. I remember this one time as we're coming back over the mountains, we have my van and I'm driving across, and it all of a sudden starts to smoke. And I'm freaking out going, okay, so it made the trip less tense because now we have this memory of the car blowing up. It wasn't anything about the treatment that time. It was that the car on the way home was steaming. And if you ask my kids about trips over there, that's the first thing they'll tell you about. It's not all the times we went to the university for the treatments or anything. It is the car almost exploding because that's what I thought was going to happen at that time. And so, and you just make fun of it and you realize that those are the gifts that keep your mind occupied and you don't have to think about what's going on. So that's another tip. And then another one, time for yourself. This is crucial. Now I'm not talking about lock yourself in the bathroom and take a bath because that's what everybody suggests for time to take time for yourself. If you're a mom, and maybe dads too, you know that kids have radar that as soon as you think I need to go to the bathroom, their ears perk up and hear as soon as you close that door to where they're knocking on it. So never, ever use that as your time for yourself. Schedule in your planner or your calendar time for yourself. That could be coffee with a friend, just to talk, and don't talk about anything else other than what you want to talk about. And another thing about time for yourself is be present in the time. Don't think of the shoulda, coulda, wouldas of what should be going on at home, what you would be doing. Focus your attention on yourself. There will be times when you can deal with that other stuff. Most of the time, I found myself, and I had to learn to not think about what the kids were doing at home because I knew that my mom was feeding them more sugar than they needed and they were going to be riled up. But that was okay because I needed to take that time for myself. And that you too, as caregivers, need to accept that you have time for yourself and that it's okay. Because when you are in that caregiving situation, then therefore you can focus all your attention on the child or the person that needs the caregiving and be fully there for them at that time. So again, the tips are pen and paper to write down all those questions. Calendar, because I don't know how many appointments you'll have, but they will seem immensely. And then also time for yourself, ask for help, and accept the help. Congratulations on your caregiving status.